Let me tell you something most men will never admit out loud. You weren't heartbroken because she was powerful. You were shaken because you weren't centered. Every time her tone changed, your mood changed. Every time she went silent, your mind spiraled. Every time she pulled away, you chased harder. And slowly, without realizing it, you handed over control of your emotional state. This is not about blaming women. This is about confronting a harder truth. A man who cannot regulate his emotions will always feel manipulated. Tonight, we're not talking about how to win against women. We're talking about how to become the kind of man who cannot be emotionally controlled. Because once you master your mind, guilt loses power. Withdrawal loses leverage. And fear loses its voice. This is Stoic love. And it begins with one decision. You will no longer react from weakness, only from strength. Welcome to the channel, Stoic Love Wisdom. This is where every story and lesson about love will help you find the answer. Today, we will explore a new perspective through the topic, how to deal with emotional manipulation in women. These are real-life experiences and profound lessons that will change the way you perceive love. Follow me, because the most surprising and interesting things are still waiting for you ahead. Before starting, find a quiet place, put on your headphones and relax your mind. Let the sharing in this video help you feel more fully and enjoy every meaningful moment. Are you ready to embark on this journey? Let's begin. Part 1, The Game You Don't See, Understanding Emotional Manipulation Before It Owns You. I'm not going to speak to you like a motivational speaker. I'm going to speak to you like a man who has lost, learned, rebuilt, and walked away when necessary. There was a time in my life when I thought love meant endurance. I believed strength was staying. I believed loyalty meant absorbing emotional storms without flinching. I was wrong. A man's strength is not measured by how much emotional chaos he can survive. It is measured by how clearly he can see it, and refuse to be controlled by it. If you want to understand how to deal with emotional manipulation from women, you must first understand something deeper. Manipulation does not begin with her. It begins with your unexamined need. 1. The hidden battlefield. Most men think manipulation looks dramatic. Screaming. Crying. Threats. Ultimatums. No. Real manipulation is subtle. It sounds like, if you really loved me, you would. I guess I just care more than you do. You've changed. Silence when you least expect it. Warmth withdrawn without explanation. It's not always malicious. Sometimes it's unconscious. Sometimes it's insecurity. Sometimes it's fear. But whether intentional or not, the effect is the same. You begin adjusting your behavior not from principle, but from fear of losing her. And that is the moment a man loses his frame. A Stoic man understands something crucial. Control over your emotions is power. Dependence on someone else's emotional approval is weakness. 2. Why emotional manipulation works on men. Let me tell you the truth most men don't want to admit. We are not manipulated because women are powerful. We are manipulated because we crave validation. We want to feel chosen. We want to feel needed. We want to feel irreplaceable. When she withdraws affection, your nervous system reacts like it's facing physical danger. You start negotiating. You explain yourself more than necessary. You apologize for things you didn't do. You chase clarity instead of maintaining dignity. But here is the Stoic principle you must engrave into your bones. Nothing external has power over you unless you surrender your judgment. This idea comes from Epictetus, who taught that we are disturbed not by events, but by our interpretation of them. When she goes silent, the event is silence. Your interpretation is, I'm losing her. Your fear fills in the rest. And fear is the door manipulation walks through. 3. The difference between emotion and manipulation. Now listen carefully. Women are emotional. That is not a flaw. It is biological and psychological reality. Emotion is not manipulation. Crying is not manipulation. Expressing pain is not manipulation. Needing reassurance is not manipulation. Manipulation begins when emotion is used as leverage. When tears become a tool. When guilt becomes currency. When affection becomes a reward system. A man without inner stability cannot tell the difference. He reacts to intensity instead of observing intention. The Stoic lover does not suppress emotion. He observes it. He does not become cold. He becomes clear. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private reflections, what later became meditations. You have power over your mind, not outside events. If her mood shifts, that is outside you. If she tests your boundaries, that is outside you. If she attempts to provoke jealousy, guilt, or fear, that is outside you. Your reaction is inside you. And that is where your authority lives. 4. The first law of Stoic love: never react from fear. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, I was seeing a woman who knew exactly how to destabilize me. If I didn't respond quickly enough, she would say, "I guess I'm just not important." If I went out with friends, I thought we were serious. If I disagreed, "You've become cold." At first, I defended myself. I over-explained. I reassured constantly. The more I did, the less respect I received. Why? Because I was reacting from fear of losing her, not from alignment with my values. And women, whether they admit it or not, lose attraction for men who operate from fear. The moment I stopped reacting emotionally, something changed. When she said, "I guess I'm not important," I replied calmly, "I don't play guilt games. If something bothers you, speak directly. No anger. No sarcasm. No defensiveness. Just clarity." That was the moment the dynamic shifted. 5. You cannot be manipulated if you are willing to walk away. This is the sentence that separates boys from men. Emotional manipulation only works when you are afraid to lose the person. A Stoic man loves deeply. But he is never dependent. He understands impermanence. He understands that attachment without self-control becomes self-destruction. The Roman Stoic Seneca warned about emotional slavery, about allowing passion to rule judgment. If you cannot imagine your life without her, she unconsciously feels that imbalance. And imbalance creates leverage. True masculine presence comes from this internal posture. I choose you. But I do not need you to survive. That energy cannot be manipulated. Because it is grounded in self-sufficiency. 6. The core problem: most men have no emotional discipline. Here is what nobody teaches young men. We are trained to chase. To prove. To win approval. But we are never taught emotional discipline. Emotional discipline means you don't argue to win. You don't react instantly. You don't defend every accusation. You don't beg for reassurance. You pause. You observe. You decide. Manipulation thrives in reactivity. It dies in stillness. If she raises her voice and you remain calm, the game collapses. If she withdraws affection and you maintain composure, the leverage disappears. If she threatens to leave and you say, "If that's what you truly want, I respect it," the power dynamic resets. Not because you are cold, but because you are centered. 7. The Stoic foundation you must build first. Before we talk about specific tactics, and we will in the next parts, you must build the foundation. You must develop purpose outside the relationship. Strengthen your body. Control your impulses. Sit alone without anxiety. Detach from constant validation. Without this internal structure, any emotional turbulence will shake you. And if you shake easily, you can be moved easily. A grounded man is difficult to manipulate not because he is dominant, but because he is internally anchored. Have you ever realized that, in love, moments of silence are sometimes more powerful than 1,000 words? Because in silence, we can hear our heartbeat more clearly and feel the presence of the other person more deeply. Here, I want to explore with you that strength, peace, and stability even when love goes through challenges. If you feel that these shares bring you something positive, please click like to support. And if you haven't clicked subscribe, do it now, so you don't miss any insight into love and maturity. I also hope to hear your story. What is the most valuable lesson that love has taught you? Please share in the comments section so we can learn and be inspired together. Come on, let's move on to the next part with a more prepared mind. Part 2, the tactics you must recognize, how emotional tests are used, and how a Stoic man responds. In the first part, I told you something many men don't want to hear. You are not controlled by her emotions. You are controlled by your fear of losing her. Now we go deeper. Because once you understand the battlefield, you must learn to recognize the weapons. Let me make something clear before we continue. Not every woman manipulates consciously. Not every emotional shift is a strategy. But whether intentional or instinctive, certain patterns appear again and again in relationships where the man lacks emotional grounding. And if you cannot recognize the pattern, you will become the pattern. Today, I will walk you through the most common emotional tactics I've seen, and how a Stoic man responds without aggression, without bitterness, and without losing his center. 1. The guilt lever. This is the most common one. It sounds like, after everything I've done for you, I guess I just care more. You never prioritize me. If I mattered, you would. Guilt is powerful because it attacks your identity as a good man. Most men want to be honorable, reliable, loyal. So when guilt is introduced, your nervous system reacts as if your integrity is being questioned. And you rush to repair the damage. You overcompensate. You cancel plans. You sacrifice boundaries. But here is the Stoic principle. If your decision is aligned with your values, guilt has no authority. As Epictetus taught, no one can harm your character unless you cooperate with them. If you genuinely neglected her, correct it calmly. But if you acted from principle, and she uses guilt to override that principle, do not surrender. A Stoic response sounds like this. I understand you feel that way. But my decision stands. Notice something. No defensiveness. No argument. No apology for having standards. Just calm consistency. Guilt collapses when it finds no emotional reaction. 2. The withdrawal of affection. This one is subtle. She becomes cold. Less responsive. Less affectionate. Short replies. Physical distance. She doesn't attack. She withdraws. And most men panic. Because affection feels like oxygen. When it disappears, you feel deprived. So what do? You chase. You text more. You initiate more. You try to fix the mood. But here is the hard truth. Chasing withdrawn affection reinforces the withdrawal. Why? Because it teaches her that emotional distance increases your pursuit. A Stoic man does not chase warmth. He mirrors energy calmly. If she withdraws, he gives space, without resentment. He does not interrogate. He does not beg for clarity. He continues his routine. his mission, his life. And something interesting happens. When you are unaffected by emotional withdrawal, it loses its leverage. As Marcus Aurelius reflected in Meditations, choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Withdrawal only manipulates you if you interpret it as rejection. If instead you interpret it as emotional fluctuation, you remain steady. And steadiness is power. 3. The emotional explosion. This is the storm tactic. Sudden intensity. Raised voice. Crying. Accusations. Bringing up the past. Most men either explode back, or retreat in confusion. Both are mistakes. If you escalate, you lose authority. If you shrink, you lose respect. The Stoic man does neither. He lowers his voice when hers rises. He slows his breathing when tension increases. He does not interrupt. He does not defend every accusation. He listens for the emotion beneath the noise. Because often, beneath anger is fear. And beneath accusation is insecurity. The goal is not to win. The goal is to remain anchored. As Seneca warned, anger is a temporary madness. If you respond with equal madness, you have abandoned leadership. Calmness in chaos is not passivity. It is dominance over yourself. And self-dominance is the highest form of strength. 4. The jealousy trigger. This one is psychological. She mentions other men. She references attention she receives. She compares you subtly. Not directly attacking, but planting doubt. Why? To measure your security. An insecure man reacts instantly. Who is he? Why are you telling me that? Do you like him? Now she sees the crack. A Stoic man understands something. If she wants to be with someone else, she is free to go. You do not compete for attention. You do not beg for reassurance. You do not try to outperform imaginary rivals. You simply say, do what feels right to you. And mean it. Because jealousy is only effective when you fear replacement. If you know your value, comparison does not disturb you. You are not threatened by options. You are threatened only by your own insecurity. 5. The victim reversal. This one is advanced. You express a concern. Instead of addressing it, she flips the script. Now she is hurt. Now she feels attacked. Now you are the aggressor. And suddenly, you are apologizing for bringing up your feelings. This is where many men lose themselves. Because they abandon their original issue just to restore peace. But peace built on suppressed truth is silent resentment. A Stoic man does not abandon his point. He calmly returns to it. I understand you feel hurt. But I still need to address what I brought up. Notice the steadiness. No anger. No retreat. Just clarity. Emotional reversal fails when you refuse to be pulled off topic. 6. Why tests exist in the first place. Now let's step back. Why do these behaviors happen? Often, they are not malicious. They are tests of stability. Conscious or unconscious, many women assess. Can he stay calm under pressure? Does he have boundaries? Can he be moved emotionally? Does he crumble when challenged? This is not cruelty. This is evolutionary psychology. Strength in a partner equals safety. If you are emotionally fragile, she feels unsafe, even if she cannot articulate why. And when she feels unsafe, she tests. The Stoic man passes not by domination, but by composure. 7. The core response pattern. Every tactic we discussed has one antidote. Emotional neutrality. Not coldness. Not indifference to her feelings. But indifference to manipulation. You acknowledge emotion. You reject pressure. You stay calm. You do not argue for your worth. You do not defend your existence. You do not negotiate your boundaries. You simply stand. Like I told you before. You do not fight the storm. You become the mountain. Final reflection of part 2. The moment you stop reacting from fear, manipulation loses oxygen. The moment you stop chasing reassurance, emotional games stop working. The moment you become internally anchored, the dynamic shifts. And here is something most men discover too late. Women respect men who cannot be emotionally moved by tactics. Not because those men are cold, but because they are stable. Part 3, The Inner Fortress, Training Your Mind So No One Can Control It. By now, you understand the tactics. You recognize guilt. You see withdrawal. You stay calm in emotional storms. But here is the deeper truth. Recognizing manipulation is easy. Becoming unshakable is hard. Because the real battlefield is not her behavior. It is your nervous system. It is your attachment wounds. It is your fear of abandonment. It is your ego needing validation. If those remain untrained, you will always react, even if you know better. So in this part, I'm not going to talk about women. I'm going to talk about you. Because Stoic love begins with self-mastery. And self-mastery is built, not inherited. 1. Emotional control is a skill, not a personality trait. Some men believe emotional stability is something you're born with. That's just who I am. I'm intense. I'm passionate. No. You are undisciplined. There is a difference. Passion without control is chaos. Intensity without awareness is volatility. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Epictetus taught that we must train our perceptions, because it is not events that disturb us, but the meaning we attach to them. If she doesn't reply for hours, the event is neutral. Your interpretation creates suffering. She's losing interest. She's talking to someone else. I'm not enough. Notice what's happening. You are not reacting to her. You are reacting to your imagination. And unless you train your mind, your imagination will always overpower your reason. 2. Detachment is not indifference. This is where many men misunderstand Stoicism. They think it means becoming cold. Detached. Unemotional. Distant. No. Detachment means loving without needing. Caring without clinging. Choosing without fearing loss. You can love deeply, but still accept that any person can leave. You can invest fully, but still know you will survive without them. That psychological independence changes everything. Because emotional manipulation depends on your fear of loss. When loss becomes survivable in your mind, pressure loses power. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself in Meditations. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This was not pessimism. It was clarity. When you accept impermanence, you stop grasping. And a man who does not grasp cannot be controlled. 3. Build a life that doesn't collapse without her. Let me speak plainly. If your entire identity revolves around her attention, you are already vulnerable. If your schedule empties when she pulls away, you are exposed. If your confidence fluctuates based on her mood, you are unstable. Manipulation feeds on imbalance. So what do you build? You build pillars. Pillar 1, Purpose. A mission bigger than romance. Pillar 2, Physical discipline. A strong body creates a regulated nervous system. Pillar 3, Brotherhood. Men who challenge you, not just validate you. Pillar 4, Solitude tolerance. The ability to sit alone without panic. When these pillars exist, a relationship becomes part of your life, not the foundation of it. And when you are internally supported, no emotional shift can destabilize you completely. 4. Master the pause. This single practice changed my life. Pause before responding. When she says something provocative, pause. When she accuses, pause. When she withdraws, pause. The pause interrupts your reactive pattern. The pause gives reason time to speak. Seneca wrote extensively about anger, warning that immediate reaction is surrender to impulse. Your strength as a man is measured by the gap between stimulus and response. Increase that gap. Breathe slower than the moment requires. Speak softer than the tension suggests. Move slower than the chaos demands. When you slow down, you take control. And control over yourself is the only real control you ever possess. 5. Stop seeking emotional fairness. Here is a difficult lesson. Relationships are not emotionally symmetrical. She may test you emotionally in ways you do not test her. She may express insecurity dramatically. She may need reassurance at times you don't. If you constantly demand equal emotional behavior, you will feel resentful. Instead, focus on stability. Your role is not to mirror chaos. Your role is to anchor it. That does not mean tolerating disrespect. It means not expecting emotional symmetry. Strength is not about matching intensity. It is about absorbing it without losing form. 6. Heal the wound that makes you reactive. Let me speak from experience. If you fear abandonment deeply, you will overreact to small signals. If you were ignored growing up, silence will trigger anxiety. If you were criticized constantly, disapproval will feel catastrophic. And when those wounds are activated, you will confuse past pain with present reality. No Stoic practice can work if you refuse to face your history. You must ask yourself, why does her withdrawal feel unbearable? Why does her criticism feel threatening? Why does her attention feel addictive? Because the manipulation is not just external. It connects to something internal. Heal that, and half the battle disappears. 7. Learn to be comfortable being misunderstood. This is advanced. Sometimes, when you stop reacting, she may say, "You've changed. You're cold. You don't care anymore." And you must be okay with that perception, as long as you know your truth. If you are calm, respectful, and firm, you are not cold. You are stable. But unstable dynamics feel uncomfortable when stability enters the room. A Stoic man does not adjust his center to avoid temporary misunderstanding. He remains aligned with his values. Over time, either respect grows, or incompatibility reveals itself. Both outcomes are victories. 8. Emotional independence creates real attraction. Let me tell you something men often discover too late. When you stop chasing emotional reassurance. When you stop reacting to pressure. When you stop negotiating your boundaries. Attraction often increases. Why? Because stability signals strength. And strength signals safety. A man who cannot be emotionally shaken communicates something powerful. I am not governed by fear. And that energy is magnetic. Not because it is dominant, but because it is grounded. Final reflection of Part 3. Emotional manipulation is not defeated through confrontation. It is dissolved through internal discipline. When your mind is trained. When your fears are faced. When your identity is anchored beyond the relationship. You become difficult to move. In love, sometimes silence is the answer. It gives us time to listen to ourselves and understand the other person's heart better. That's also the reason I share stories on this channel, so that you have a pause, a peaceful space to reflect. If you find this meaningful, please click like and don't forget to subscribe, so that we can continue to accompany each other on the journey to find a peaceful and profound love. Now, let's continue the rest with me. Part 4, Strength Without Coldness, How to Stay Warm, Lead Calmly, and Refuse Manipulation. By now, you understand the battlefield. You recognize the tactics. You train your mind. You master the pause. You detach from fear. But here is where many men make a fatal mistake. They confuse emotional strength with emotional withdrawal. They think, if I don't react, I must become distant. If I don't chase, I must become cold. If I don't tolerate manipulation, I must shut down emotionally. No. That is not Stoic love. That is emotional armor. And armor, worn too long, becomes isolation. The goal is not to become cold. The goal is to become centered, while remaining warm. There is a difference. And this difference separates the hardened man from the evolved man. 1. The balanced frame, calm, not cold. When I was younger, after being manipulated in a relationship, I swung too far the other way. I became distant. Measured. Unexpressive. No one could move me. But no one could feel me either. That is not power. That is fear disguised as strength. The true Stoic model, as practiced by thinkers like Marcus Aurelius, was not emotional numbness. It was emotional regulation. Regulation means you feel everything, but you are ruled by nothing. When she expresses sadness, you comfort her. When she shares insecurity, you reassure her. When she needs closeness, you offer it. But when emotion turns into pressure, you hold your ground. Warmth without surrender. That is the balance. 2. How to set boundaries without escalation. Boundaries are where most men either collapse or explode. They either say nothing and build resentment, or assert themselves with anger. Both are signs of poor emotional discipline. A Stoic boundary is calm, direct, and brief. Example. If you're upset, speak to me directly. I don't respond to guilt. I'm open to discussing this, but not with shouting. I won't accept being compared to other men. No lectures. No threats. No raised tone. Just clarity. As Seneca warned, anger weakens authority. The moment you become emotional in your boundary, you lose credibility. Boundaries are not punishments. They are standards. And standards do not need aggression to be respected, only consistency. 3. Don't win arguments. Lead energy. Most men think leadership in relationships means winning logical debates. Wrong. You do not lead through logic. You lead through emotional stability. If she is upset and you respond with, technically, you're wrong, you will escalate conflict. But if you respond with, I hear that you're frustrated. Let's slow this down. You shift the energy. Leadership is emotional containment. When tension rises, your job is to lower it, not dominate it. That does not mean tolerating disrespect. It means choosing timing. If she is emotional, solve the emotion first. Then address the logic later. A calm man controls tempo. And the one who controls tempo controls the dynamic. 4. Replace reactivity with curiosity. Here's a powerful shift. Instead of reacting to behavior, become curious about it. If she withdraws, ask, what's going on beneath that? If she explodes, ask, what is she actually afraid of right now? Often, manipulation masks insecurity. When you address the insecurity without rewarding the manipulation, something changes. Example. If she says, maybe I should just leave. Instead of panicking or arguing, respond. Are you feeling unheard right now? You are not reacting to the threat. You are addressing the emotion. This maintains authority while preserving connection. 5. Reward honesty. Ignore games. Here is a rule every man should remember. What you reward increases. What you ignore decreases. If she communicates directly, I feel insecure when you don't text back. Reward that honesty. I appreciate you saying that clearly. But if she uses guilt or silence, do not overcompensate. Stay steady. When emotional games stop producing results, they fade. When emotional maturity produces closeness, it grows. You train dynamics not through confrontation, but through reinforcement. 6. Masculine energy is directional, not reactive. There is something many men forget. Masculine presence is directional. It moves forward. It does not orbit emotional fluctuations. If you wake up and your mood depends on her tone, if your productivity depends on her affection, if your peace depends on her approval, you are orbiting her. Reverse that. She becomes part of your world, not the center of it. That doesn't mean neglect. It means structure. A man with direction is calming to a woman. A man without direction is destabilizing. When you remain focused on your mission, your body language changes. Your tone changes. Your pace changes. And emotional manipulation becomes harder. Because you are not psychologically idle. Idle men overanalyze. Purpose-driven men observe and move forward. 7. Compassion without compromise. Here is the highest level of Stoic love. You understand her fears. You empathize with her wounds. You see the insecurity behind the behavior. But you do not sacrifice your self-respect. You can say, I know you've been hurt before. I'm not your past. But I also won't accept being treated like it. That sentence holds compassion and strength at the same time. And that combination builds respect. Cold men create distance. Weak men create imbalance. Grounded men create trust. 8. The emotional tone of a Stoic man. If I had to summarize it in one word. Measured. Not slow because of confusion. Not silent because of fear. Not calm because of suppression. Measured because of control. When she sees that, you don't flinch under pressure. You don't attack under stress. You don't retreat under emotion. She relaxes. Because stability is contagious. Your nervous system becomes the reference point. And over time, emotional manipulation becomes unnecessary. Because she feels safe enough to communicate directly. Final reflection of Part 4. Strength without warmth becomes isolation. Warmth without strength becomes weakness. But when you combine both, you become rare. You become a man who feels deeply, thinks clearly, acts calmly, leads steadily. And that type of man cannot be emotionally controlled. Part 5, the final test, knowing when to walk away without bitterness. There is a truth most men resist until life forces them to face it. Not every relationship can be stabilized. Not every woman will respond to calm strength. Not every dynamic can be corrected through patience. Sometimes, the final act of masculine leadership is departure. And this is where Stoic love reveals its sharpest edge. Because walking away, not in anger, not in ego, not in revenge, but in clarity, requires more strength than staying ever will. 1. The difference between challenge and pattern. Every relationship has tension. Misunderstandings happen. Emotions flare. Boundaries are tested. That is normal. But there is a difference between temporary conflict and repeated manipulation. Ask yourself. Does she take responsibility after calm conversations? Do emotional games decrease over time? Is there growth, or repetition? If manipulation becomes a pattern, not an exception, you are no longer facing emotion. You are facing a dynamic. And dynamics either evolve, or they consume you. A Stoic man observes patterns, not isolated events. As Epictetus taught, wisdom comes from seeing reality clearly, not from wishing it to be different. If you must constantly defend your boundaries. If your calmness is met with escalation. If your compassion is exploited. You are not in a partnership. You are in emotional warfare. And no man thrives in permanent warfare. 2. When respect does not grow. Love can survive tension. It cannot survive sustained disrespect. Disrespect is not loud. Sometimes it's subtle. Mocking your ambitions. Comparing you to others repeatedly. Ignoring boundaries after they were calmly stated. Weaponizing vulnerability you once shared. The moment vulnerability becomes ammunition, trust is broken. And trust is the spine of connection. Even Seneca warned against remaining in environments that corrode character. If staying requires you to shrink, to suppress your truth, to constantly prove your worth, you are not preserving love. You are abandoning yourself. 3. The fear that keeps men trapped. Let me speak honestly. Men rarely stay because they are weak. They stay because they are afraid. Afraid of being alone, starting over, losing intimacy, admitting failure. But here is the deeper fear. What if I never find someone else? That question has kept strong men imprisoned in weak dynamics. But understand this. Fear of future scarcity is not a reason to tolerate present dysfunction. A Stoic man accepts uncertainty. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. If you have built discipline, purpose, and emotional strength, you will survive departure. And survival is enough. 4. Leaving without drama. Here is where emotional maturity is tested. If you choose to leave, do not explode. Do not insult. Do not expose. Do not attempt to win. Speak clearly. I don't feel this dynamic is healthy for either of us. I've communicated my boundaries, and they haven't been respected. I care about you, but I need a relationship built on mutual stability. No revenge. No emotional theatrics. Just clarity. Because how you leave defines who you are. Anger feels powerful in the moment. But calm exit demonstrates true authority. You are not leaving to hurt her. You are leaving to protect yourself. And that difference matters. 5. The aftermath. Silence is strength. Once you leave, the temptation begins. To check her social media. To respond to late-night messages. To re-engage out of loneliness. This is the final manipulation, not from her, but from your own attachment. Do not reopen doors you closed with clarity. If you ended it for self-respect, honor that decision. Pain will come. You will miss her. You will question yourself. But missing someone does not mean you made the wrong decision. Attachment withdraws like a drug. But clarity remains sober. Sit with the discomfort. Let it burn without reacting. Growth often feels like loneliness before it feels like freedom. 6. Not all departures are failures. This is critical. Walking away is not defeat. Sometimes it is graduation. Some relationships teach you discipline. Some teach you boundaries. Some teach you what you will never tolerate again. And some simply show you who you are becoming. Do not label every ending as tragedy. Sometimes it is alignment. When a dynamic no longer matches your emotional maturity, leaving is evolution, not rejection. 7. The highest level of Stoic love. The highest form of Stoic love is this. You love fully. You lead calmly. You set boundaries clearly. You respond without fear. And if necessary, you release without hatred. You do not harden your heart. You do not generalize all women. You do not become cynical. Because bitterness is emotional manipulation that continues long after the relationship ends. True strength is leaving without resentment. That is rare. That is mastery. 8. Final truth, the unshakable man. Let me leave you with this. A man who cannot be manipulated is not a man who controls women. He is a man who controls himself. He understands. Emotion is natural. Pressure is temporary. Fear is internal. Respect is non-negotiable. He does not chase. He does not react blindly. He does not tolerate repeated disrespect. He stands firm, but he remains warm. He loves deeply, but he is never owned. And if he must walk away, he walks with dignity. Because the strongest men are not those who endure everything. They are those who endure what aligns. And release what corrodes. That is Stoic love. That is masculine composure. That is freedom. Conclusion. If there is one truth I want you to walk away with, it is this. Emotional manipulation is not defeated by force. It is defeated by inner discipline. A man without emotional control will always feel controlled. A man who fears loss will always feel pressured. A man who seeks constant validation will always be vulnerable to withdrawal. But a man who has mastered himself cannot be moved by tactics, cannot be shaken by silence, cannot be cornered by guilt. This is the essence of Stoic love. Not coldness. Not dominance. Not emotional suppression. But clarity. Clarity about your values. Clarity about your boundaries. Clarity about what you will give, and what you will not tolerate. When you understand that your peace is your responsibility, everything changes. You stop reacting impulsively. You stop negotiating your self-respect. You stop mistaking intensity for intimacy. Instead, you become steady. You love deeply, but not desperately. You lead calmly, but not aggressively. You stay warm, but never weak. And if necessary, you walk away, not out of anger, but out of alignment. Because in the end, emotional manipulation only works on a man who has not yet mastered himself. Build the inner fortress. Strengthen your mind. Anchor your identity beyond any relationship. And when you do, love becomes a choice, not a dependency. And no one can control a man who chooses from strength. Thank you for watching today's video. I'm so happy to share my lessons about love and relationships with you. I hope you learned something new and can apply it to your life. If you find the video useful, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. Thank you for always accompanying and supporting me. Wish you a good day and don't forget to love yourself a lot.